Hi, Alison Spice, and this is my Skills 7 presentation for the delivery unit. Before we start, I've got the camera running to record the session. Is there anybody who's got a problem with this session being recorded? No. Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming along to the second session. I'm just wondering if everyone, I think, is aware that the closest exit is out the door in the event of an emergency, and we've got bathrooms just to our left, okay? So, can anyone remember anything that we did in the first session?
Yeah, we spoke about working with diverse people, and we worked out who comes from Australia, who's got relatives coming from other side of countries, and how this affected
we kind of worked out that in our room we're actually a lot more diverse than even what the Australian census said, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what we did was we had a look at our own cultural identity, because that's what helps us make determinations about our understanding of others. And we looked at some of the issues that make up why are people diverse, and that included where we were born, what language we speak. Nearly everyone in the class spoke a second language. Types of food, environment, spirituality, religious beliefs, perceptions, education, music, dance, traditions, a person's life history. And we actually watched a video from 1960s, which was just really so out of touch with the modern multicultural Australia that we've got today, and we understood her reflection. So, moving forward, what we're going to do today is we're actually going to divide into multicultural pairs in this room, and we're going to have a look at a workplace scenario that's a scene from a movie, and we're actually going to see what went right and wrong in the workplace and see if we can work out what would have made it better. So basically that's going to involve us being able to recognise whether or not people were behaving appropriately. So we also are going to come up the front at the end of that exercise, and we're going to have a look at how you guys all have examined the scene. So, just to put this in the context of the aged care environment, 2016 census said that 4 in 10 Australians over 65 were not born in this country. Wow. And even if you were born here, that doesn't necessarily, preclude the fact that you might have a second language, you might have, any other range of cultural perceptions as well, doesn't it? So, drilling down a bit further, so it's a big deal. How are you going to look after people properly? You've got to actually acknowledge what their needs are, what their preferences are. So you have to recognise that. I don't expect that anyone can really read the exact numbers, but the purpose of this is simply to show that this is again from the census. There are certain suburbs where there's really, really high numbers of groups. Like, for example, there's a lot of Indian people who happen to live in Blacktown. There's lots and lots of Iraqis live in Fairfield. So actually where you work might really strongly influence how you should educate. If you're going to be working with a lot of Italian people, for example, maybe it could be very beneficial for you to understand a lot about Italian food, to understand even just a few words of language, and so on and so forth. So depending where you live and where you work, you actually might go out of your way to actually learn a lot about a particular culture so that you can work with your clients more effectively. So the Australia that I was born into, which was basically the same year as the video that we watched last time, was very anti-Japanese. Very anti-Japanese. You had so many Australians who either had family members killed in the war, or who've been POWs and so forth. I live in Neutral Bay. Neutral Bay is like little Japan. Like, every third restaurant's Japanese. There are hairdressers that are entirely Japanese. But this would have never been the case. You know, people were very, very openly anti-Japanese. And now, you know, people of my parents' age group, they used to stand in the quadrangle and have announcements made about Japanese people when they went to school. You know, they were very strongly ingrained. And I think if you have a look at where I live now, you can see how the existence of sharing food and other things like that, that's actually brought all these different cultures together, and you don't have that kind of animosity expressed. All of you guys probably live in an area. Do any of you live in an area that is particularly associated with a culture? Yeah. What culture is your area associated with?
America, which is very Greek.
Greek.
Oh, and Greek and Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Oldest Greek and yet more recently Vietnamese.
I live in Dino West, Concord, and when I moved from Italy, that helped me a lot because I didn't feel so far away, because I could still get out my house, my home, and listen to people speak Italian. Like all people meeting in the little piazza, having an Italian conversation, and I felt really honored.
I used to live in Leica, and that was very Italian there too. Asheville.
Lots of Chinese.
Yeah, I was there on the weekend. It really, you know, there's a really strong Chinese presence there, isn't there?
Chatswood.
Very.
Yes.
Alex?
Rockdale, which used to be Greek, Italian, Australian.
That's got a lot of Chinese there now, isn't it?
There's
Nepalese.
yeah.
It's got a lot of Chinese restaurants, I think. I don't know so much about the numbers, but it's got lots of,
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty multicultural.
Yeah. So it's a mix of everything.
It's a mix.
What about you, Alex?
I live in Farnborough, very much Italian.
Oh, fine, Doc, okay. Alright, okay. Well, look, let's just have a little bit of fun. Nobody, when I was born, would have thought that I would be going around eating raw fish twice a week, but due to the proximity of, you know, all these Japanese restaurants on my doorstep, I do eat raw fish at least twice a week, right? So it's a bit of a tough call, but I'm going to say that my favourite cuisine is Japanese. So let's just do a little poll here in the room. Specifically salmon sashimi is my favourite.
I would say that.
I've got a seconder. Okay, alright. Harry, what's your favourite cuisine? No pressure.
No pressure.
You could say a dish or a style of food, doesn't matter. Spaghetti, Italian. Oh, okay. Okay, Rita.
I just ate Japanese yesterday, sushi and sashimi.
And do you think is it your favourite? Yeah? Oh my, well, we're doing really well. We're doing really well. Dan?
Vietnamese.
Yeah, see, that's top 5 for me as well, Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Especially Vietnamese pancake. I really like Vietnamese pancake. Natasha.
Scottish is my heritage, man. I gotta say Greek.
Alright.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Maybe her mother would never speak to her again if she said something. Jesse?
Pho is Vietnamese.
Pho. Vietnamese.
Pho, Vietnamese pho. Okay.
They're all good.
Alex?
Mine's Thai. But one
Thai.
particular one is Glee.
I didn't want
Particularly
to.
Thai. It's French Spanish.
Spanish, oh, there you go.
Wow.
Do you like paella? Is that a special thing?
Tapas.
Right, okay.
Alright.
Okay. Well, look, anyone would think I actually planned this, and clearly I did not plan it, but Japan has actually won. And it's funny that it should win because we're going to have a look at some scenes from a film called A Japanese Story. And I need everyone to watch really carefully because when we've watched it, we're going to pair up into our multicultural pairs and we're going to actually analyse what went right and what went wrong. So there's really 2 parts to this scene. The first part is Hiromitsu meets Sandy, and it speaks for itself, so I'm not going to say anything too much.
Teddy Bear, who is it? Hi. Oh my God. Sorry, Len. What's that here?
Can you get the volume up a little bit?
So come to the back.
Guys, come here.
Hot enough for you? How are you finding the heat? Does the hot weather bother you? Yeah, I don't like it much myself. At least we've got air conditioning in here. It's too fun. I'd like to see if I can find the news.
I'm going to stop it here. How do we think it's going? How's your meet Sandy? They've not exactly hit it off exactly first.
Cultural clash.
Yeah, big time. So now we're going to look and see what happens when they get back to the mining office.
Yes, private, absolutely. Okay, I'm sure we've got plenty of interesting things for you to see.
Yeah, well, it's like all the oil plants, we've got a place to live.
Okay. Leave that there, because some people might want to see that again, but we'll. Oh, I don't know why it's done that. So things went a little bit better back at the office, didn't they? So I don't have an expectation that everybody here knows everything about Japanese culture. So what I've done is I've prepared a summary of the report, because this company has a Japanese business partner and they keep on having these incidents all the time, things not going too well. So they actually hired a company to come and do a report to try and see how they can avoid having further cultural competence issues. And so basically, I'll just give that to you as a cheat sheet, because you can refer to that sheet for ideas. So for example, we'll just look at one thing together as a class. Now one thing that so obviously went badly in the first exchange is that he's presented her with a card and like she didn't even have one and she just chucked it in her pocket. Yeah, and then obviously, you know, there's all the bowing that goes with the card exchange, and obviously the gentlemen back in the office have been trained in culturally appropriate behaviour, haven't they? So, and they've had language lessons and everything, you know, so really she was doomed to failure, wasn't she? So it's so specific, like you're supposed to have an English on one side, Japanese in the other, it's supposed to be held in a certain way, presented a certain way, and you certainly shouldn't just take the card and go, like it in your pocket, like it's just disrespectful. So that's an example of what went wrong, and I'm going to leave the rest of it to you guys to have a little look now. So can I get, there's a space on this form for 10 things, but I'm not necessarily expecting that each pair comes up with 10 ideas, but if you do, great. So in our multicultural group here, can I get Alex and Alexander to do when Hiramitsu meets Sandy, but I'd like you to put yourself in Hiramitsu's shoes and think like what is he thinking about what's going on here. So you're actually going to be looking at things from his perspective. And then I'll get Jessie and Natasha to do that scene as well, but I want them to be Sandy. And what is Sandy thinking is going on when he's like just standing there and she's trying to put the bag in the car and up he goes and all the rest of it. So it is, and I want you guys to do Hiramitsu meets Richard and Baird, and I'd like you two to be Richard and Baird, and that leaves you guys. Japanese style. Would anyone like to have another look at the scene again now that they know, now that you know which part of it you're doing? Do you want to watch it again?
Just see when Hiramitsu is Richard and what the issue was in front of his not from what I said, cultural issues was issues
So it's only a 3-minute
非常に光栄です。ご存知の通り、夫様の会社は我々のギルド事業に欠かせない存在です。しかし、今回はビジネスが目的ではないと。Yes, private, absolutely. Okay, good. I'm sure we've got plenty of interesting things for you to see.
Yeah, well, it's like all documents, which are
So he was actually speaking English and
Yeah.
Yeah, he could.
Yeah, he could.
And have we had that experience before? Like I know if I'm on holidays in France, if I just walk up and speak in English, they supposedly don't speak English. But if I speak in my feeble French and apologise for my poor French, and then I find that they can speak English. Because it's just about showing a bit of courtesy and respect, isn't it? It's like I shouldn't be just walking up to some hotel desk and speaking in French when I'm in Paris.
Or you do what I do, what I've done as a mistake. I've gone to Greece, I was 18, and I see a little corner shop there. I saw, no offense, Dan, like a Nigerian man working there, and I looked at one line and I went, what's he doing here? Where did he come from? I was 18, right? You know, he's stupid, and he turns around and he's so very free to leave.
Yeah.
And I was just flabbergasted, so you make the assumption that that person can't understand that language, but maybe he just.
And that's just like if you make a small effort, just learn a few words,
Yeah.
and then people appreciate the fact that you went to that effort, and then they will try and help you out. But if you offend people, then you're not getting the relationship back on the right foot, are you? So we'll just give it a couple of minutes. How are you guys going here?
I'd like to
next time they actually didn't have any information.
And they said he didn't show her.
Because they showed that's right. So the way something went
And they knew about the bowing, and they knew about the cards. Yeah, and so they're all different things that you guys can, write down. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
He said,
We got to 10.
so she's.
You got 10.
She's supposed to be. Right?
Yeah.
So you can
Oh, that's what I'm
return
saying.
presentations or whatever.
Yeah.
See if she can get.
Yeah.
An answer.
I think this will just about
This
Hey.
is hard. Yeah. She only used one.
Anyone pick up the
Instead of
How is it going? 5.
Yeah, but I'm not,
Yeah.
they've got one word, like the sheets, I've
Can I
got.
give you a little attention?
Right here.
Yeah, yeah.
So time.
Really disrespectful. And apparently it's a particularly bad look if you touch a female.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's trying to show you.
Yeah, right.
See how he was dressed up in a suit? And she was wearing, some dress. I'll give you that. Here's a contract. How we going, guys? Yeah. Yeah, and she didn't even have to say hello or why or anything, you know what I mean? Like, so, even if she knew how to say hello, she'll fly. And she, yeah, so she probably was first of all, he's sitting in the middle of the side, because she's run late, right? She's like, it's one of the parents sit down, so she was late. And he was there, sitting next to her, but he was almost up in the night, so she turns up very casual clothes, so but he was late, she was just casual, all these things to him is disrespectful.
So So again, he treated her like a servant because she didn't show respect first.
No, I think different. I think you're on the right path. I think that she didn't understand what her role was, right? And that's where the disconnect, you know, so that's went from the greeting to the.
I think she was thrown under a bus.
Yeah, I think they just said, go to the first person.
Like the other guys knew what to do, they'd obviously been trained, and why didn't they help
Yeah.
They probably didn't, but they should have briefed her. As
Yes.
I remember, because I've experienced that in banking. We had Midori lemonade as clients, and they're from Japanese, the Japanese clients. And I was still learning, and my boss took me my first proper visit. I'll never forget it. I was going, can we get ready for Midori samples? And I was like, no, we're going to talk about business. And when we walked in, like in the cab, all the way from the beach, Alexander was like, listen, don't make eye contact until we walk in. Don't even look at them. Let me look at them first. We're going to hand business cards. I expect you to do that. And you look down, and when you receive it.
So somebody actually told
So
her
he was
going
doing
to
the whole brief.
They just said go and pick him up, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got a bit of a briefing, so.
It's a very kind of ceremonial culture.
It is. It's a lot of honour, respect, you know, it's your pleasure, it's your honour to know.
Is everyone ready? Because each pair's going to come up and talk through what they found. Is everyone ready?
We're ready.
We're ready.
Okay, so guys, do you want to come have it?
So we start from the beginning from the end actually, because our facilitator gave it to us the opportunity to discuss from when Hiromatsu meets Richard and Bart, so the two guys. And what we found out was that he was honored by the two men to be welcomed to the country, to the place in the manners that he would like. Just a bowing which showed to the Japanese culture respect for this person, and no eye contact at first. Before getting any eye contact, he received the business card. He paid attention to the business card and reading truly what's happening there, and then watching in their eyes, in his eyes. So, and the other thing that we saw was that he was actually an English speaker, so he could understand even since the first approach with the girl, and he showed he could, but he wanted first to be respected in its own Japanese language.
That's good. The movie showed that he knows the English, but it is the culture problem, not the language problem.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. And it wasn't about that at all.
No.
Was there anything else you wanted to add, Harry, to what Ray was saying?
Not for this movie, but for example, when I came to Australia, for example, now we say dear Tres, that it is rude in our country.
Oh.
We should say the last name, and Mr., Mrs., Doctor, and so on. But just the first name is rude. You can use this for friend, that's okay. But for teacher, for others, for that we don't know him, we should have a last name. And it's hard for me to just call the teacher as a first name.
So it was totally foreign to you. So that's another really good example, isn't it? Yeah, you're just offending people and you don't even know it. Well, does anyone else want to say anything else that they thought about? No? Okay, thank you.
So Dan and I will look at this from the perspective of Richard and their. So the first thing that we noticed is their respect for Hiromitsu on his arrival. So they were bowing, and bowing to the appropriate level, which is the Japanese custom. They were waiting there for him when he arrived. So that shows punctuality, which the Japanese culture is very, very important. And they were also dressed appropriately for the occasion. gave him the correct greeting on his arrival, and they spoke to him in Japanese.
That's right. The greeting, you could see, I'm not sure if it's Harry or Bert, the tall one. First reached out to shake the hand, and then just remembered, oh, actually, you have to do that, greet it properly. And also, speaking in Japanese, it's kind of saying, I'm meeting you halfway. I know who you are, and I'm coming halfway, meeting you, if you can speak, I suppose.
And then what he also said to him.
And what he also said to
the
him,
words,
just what you guys said, the words, very welcoming, respectful, presented the card appropriately, and respect as well.
I think you just said didn't straight away go and shake the hand ferociously as Sandy did. And the other big thing we noticed that once Hiromitsu spoke in English, they reverted and spoke switched around and spoke in English too.
They didn't say anything like, oh, so you can speak English. I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
That was it.
Thanks, it was really thorough, wasn't it, Mike? What's the indicator?
Alright, so we did Hiromitsu meet Sandy, and she stuffed that all yummy. So I think we all gathered with the Japanese style of the greeting. She had no idea or no clue what to do with the business card, why he was bowing, why she didn't read the card, to Jessie's point.
And receive the card with
Yeah.
one hand instead of.
She then went to shake his hand like that, and she's clearly no idea about culture. To her defence, she may not have been briefed, so we'll give her that. I put down, she picked up his luggage, so she sort of got the message that, he wasn't going to do it because he was sort of looking. So she's picking up the luggage and she's struggling, and he's looking at her, and she just got the picture like, well, I'm basically chauffeuring you now, and that's when he sat in the back. She said to him, no, you don't have to, and he just closed the door. And as they're driving along, she's speaking to him in English, so there was no attempt or effort to try to speak to him in the Japanese language. And the radio and the aircon, and then she's yelling at him. Maybe he couldn't understand, so we all automatically think that if we raise our voices, we can understand you even more, so she's screaming, so.
Didn't show her respect.
Correct. So she's yelling, expects an answer, didn't acknowledge culture, and he just went, well, I'm not even going to tell you I can speak English, because I'm not going to even acknowledge you.
He
just wrote her off, pretty much. So she was late as well. So that's a no-no. The dress code, she was obviously dressed down, or he was all like he was immaculate in the middle of the desert, but
And she touched.
oh yeah, she touched him.
Down on the shoulder.
And I think that's it, because I think we're not supposed to be touching ourselves, so I think that's, we observed, so.
Terrific. So, lucky last, Alexander and Alex, can you share with us what you?
I guess it's human to me, Sandy, so did a disaster, she didn't know how to bow, she didn't know how to present business cards ceremoniously, speaks little English. She was expecting to put a bag in his car, she wasn't punctual in the beginning, and she wasn't dressed appropriately.
And so what was he thinking about all of that?
Not impressed by any of it.
So they got off on really such a bad start that because she didn't show respect for his culture and practice, he didn't give it So that's it. I hope everyone enjoyed it. It's actually a good film if anyone would like to. It's actually probably one of Tony Collette's better films, I think. So we've done that. So these were some of the key issues that we learned about. So obviously language was one, but it really wasn't a real problem here, was it? Apart from the fact that she knew no Japanese at all. So they're very ritualised greetings practices that she clearly knew nothing about, and those two guys in the office, they've obviously been trained, haven't they?
Yeah.
She wasn't punctual. She really didn't know anything about that business card. She didn't even have one to give back, and yeah, just chucking it in a pocket, and yeah. He's in Armani, she's in a pair of jeans. She touched him, and particularly because she's a woman and he's a man, that really was a no-no. And it's greetings are formal, and there just wasn't any of that going on, and there certainly wasn't any bowing going on. In my opinion, they threw Sandy under the bus. Like, XBR Minerals needed to train everybody who's going to come into contact with international staff. So if that's a regular thing, they should actually run sessions like this, cultural diversity training in the workplace, so that things, you know, are more harmonious, you know. So obviously, depending on your workplace, it might be appropriate for you to be trained specifically in Japanese culture, but there might be a different culture, such as, you know, the areas that we talked about earlier, that are appropriate for you. Because she accidentally offended him. It wasn't deliberate.
Yeah.
So what we've done today is we've examined the prevalence of cultural diversity, and in Australia's over 65 population, so if you remember that, you know, the post-war migrants are getting old, and we actually need to really skill up to provide appropriate care for them. We understood what cultural competence is, because clearly Sandy wasn't culturally competent, and the other people in the company have been trained. We used our observation skills to recognise culturally appropriate, respectful behaviour. And I think we've understood the importance of respect in the workplace. Like, that situation didn't work because respect wasn't shown. And we also divided into culturally diverse pairs to work on an activity to consider how we can identify and manage issues. So I'm afraid next session is a little bit dry. We're going to be looking at the legalities behind because what we're talking about is legislated, and there are a range of laws, and there's also processes and organisations you can complain to if you feel that you've been discriminated against on the basis of your race, your religion, or any of these other factors that we've been talking about. So that's what we'll be looking at next session, and thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.